Bienvenido.
It's Chili's o'clock somewhere.
Slosh hours. That's a lot better. What's up, guys? Welcome back. This is your host, Slosh of Slosh Hours Podcast. Today I'm sitting here with a friend, Chang. How's it going?
Hello.
And I'm also sitting here with Skittles. Skittles is going to be accompanying us, chiming in when he needs to. And this topic, I think we're going to go a little deeper on this one. It's going to be philosophical and philosophy questions. So do you want to start on like religion or tell me about this book you're reading?
I started reading Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. He's one of the Roman emperors, and it's basically like a book that he wrote for himself. It was like a journal about like how to live life and like how to avoid like the pain in life and like how to live your best life. It's just like,
dude, that sounds actually really interesting, and I haven't read that one, but right now I'm reading Friedrich Nietzsche.
Yeah.
Nietzsche. He's like an 18th century philosopher. It's called Beyond Good and Evil, and it pretty much describes humans once they surpass morals and religion, being a completely moralist and religionless society. And he argues that could be better and more futuristic. So it's pretty interesting.
Shit, I want to read that now.
Yeah, it's almost like he's arguing for like anarchy.
Yeah.
But he's super smart. So
have you heard about like his is one of Oedipus complex?
Yeah.
Nietzsche's Oedipus complex, where like your son wants to kill their own father and fuck their mother.
Yeah, well that was a big thing with like Freud. He was
that's Freud. That's not
Freud.
Nietzsche. Fuck.
Yeah, Freud said the meaning of life, or I guess the driving force of life, is will to sex.
Yeah, like,
and he pretty much said every son wants to bang the mom.
Mm-hmm.
And then Nietzsche, on the contrary, says it's the will to power.
Yeah, like we sort of like higher on like the like societal wise.
Right.
On the hierarchy.
Yeah, and he argues that even the stuff we do, like acts of charity and stuff like that, are in a way just benefiting us somehow.
Yeah, like getting more
powerful
reputation.
Ego or something.
I mean, I personally believe that far more than like Freud, because like I know.
Oh yeah. Well, Freud was a brilliant guy, but he was describing his personal experience.
Yeah, dude was a horn dog.
Yeah, which I mean that's just who he was. So it's really good and really smart. It's just that's his experience.
I feel like a lot, definitely like it probably resonates with some people, but I know like some people also like they put away their sexual desires for their own goals, like such as like Nietzsche.
Well, yeah,
that type of stuff. And
even like boxers and shit like don't have sex before they're gonna fight.
Yeah,
and that's just like a small example, but yeah. And then a pupil of Freud, which I read more of, is Carl Jung.
Yeah,
he's better, and I can't remember what he says is like the driving force of life, but he's more of a moderate than the earlier guys who were kind of insane.
I know, like Young and his MBTI shit,
Mm-hmm.
Myers-Briggs.
Yeah, it's pretty. Skittles, you know any of these people?
I have no idea.
You gotta start reading, dude.
Yeah,
it's really interesting.
I the only book I've read is the book about by Dr. Bob Rotella. It's about golf. It's about like the mental game of golf. Has nothing to do with that.
Well, I mean, any psychology. Read. The thing that fascinates me most about like psychology, getting away from the philosophy, is we know nothing about psychology at all.
Oh yeah, because like I know like the Myers-Briggs stuff, like they categorize people into very large segments,
right.
But like there's so many nuances within that.
Yeah, and you don't know. We know like some stuff works, but we don't know why it works when like treating neurosis and stuff.
And like depression and
stuff.
Yeah,
we have no fucking idea. That's why I think it's weird when people try and tell you something's exactly this way or exactly that way. Like we have no fucking idea.
Yeah, it's just like our minds and conscious are so complex
right.
that like there's no clear answer.
Well, isn't it like over 90% of your day-to-day lives are lived in the unconscious or something?
No idea, bro.
Dude, I think there's a statistic that's like
talking about like you only use like 10% of your brain.
No, not that, but like on your day-to-day activities, 90% of the shit you do, you don't even think about. It's just in your unconscious, in your subconscious instincts.
I feel like that's probably talking about like keeping yourself alive, you know? Like you don't tell your heart to beat or your blood to flow.
Right. Stuff like that.
But like it's the same thing with your mind. There's probably like shit going through your mind
that you have no idea.
Yeah.
And it's all connected too. That's what they're finding out is everything's connected.
Yeah, and like just like it can probably be seen like especially like the environment people grow in, like they don't actively realize like the environment that they're growing up in, but it affects them in such large ways.
Oh yeah, totally. Everything affects it. The books you read, the music, fucking a single childhood experience could change your whole life.
Yeah, for sure.
And a lot of the times, it could have not even happened, because they're also finding out memories are complete bullshit. Like we completely, like half of the shit we remember didn't actually happen the way we remember it.
Oh fuck. Well, yeah, because like it's just like our own biased view.
Right, and it's super fucked. Whenever I'm like reading one of these books, I gotta like put it down for a little bit because I just get too freaked out.
Yeah, like when I read meditations, sometimes like I just find myself like having a conversation with myself in like my own head, and you're like,
it's insane.
You read like a quote, and it's just like you think about it, and like you try to relate it back to your own experiences in life, and you're just like sitting there like, bro, what the fuck?
It's hard, and especially the stuff that's written in like old language and stuff like that.
Yeah,
fucks your mind.
Well, I usually like when I read philosophy, I try to find like look online for like the best translation, so I don't have to deal with that.
Right.
Like, sometimes it gets a bit hard, you know.
Now some of these guys I read, they're like half of the shit's like in German or something. I'm like, well, I'm not gonna try and translate that. I just skip over it.
Yeah.
Do you know who Jordan Peterson is?
Yeah.
I actually like him. He's kind of like a modern day one of those guys, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. I know he's pretty popular among most people, but I know among like the philosopher committee, like not committee, but like community.
Yeah.
And like people don't really respect him because like they say that he doesn't have a he uses buzzwords.
Yeah.
And he doesn't really use them to like the full meaning that they're meant to be. But
well, his vocabulary is pretty insane too. I think he just sounds super smart. He could be saying something plain and it just sounds super smart.
Like some of his stuff, like I think like I resonate, but like some of the stuff like I just like okay.
Well, he's getting very political now.
Yeah.
And I think he's just doing it a lot for money, which I mean I respect for sure.
I don't know. For philosophy, I try to like I like looking at like the stuff about like our own lives, and like building like your best life and like stuff like surrounding like other people,
like almost like a self-help type of thing. Yeah, I really enjoy that stuff too.
I'm not really into like the like government and like government structures and that type of philosophy. Well,
have you read is it The Prince? By Machiavelli?
Yeah, I read that.
I read that, but it actually wasn't very captivating to me.
I will like it at front face. It seems very government oriented and like stuff like that. But I found like
super deep.
If you orient it more in a social manner and you apply it like socially, like, you realize like a lot of like different things like some of the chapters are like complete like useless in this era, but like most of it I think is applicable like just like for one and like when they interact with others rather than like because like no one's like creating their own kingdom nowadays.
Right. You read it, you're like, shit, dude, I can't relate to that.
Yeah, but like you have to like relate it to like how you interact with your peers and like or like work or something like that where you're trying to like advance yourself in your career.
Yeah, I read can't remember what it's called. I think it's called like How to Be Happy or something like that. And it's pretty rudimentary, but it's talking about the idea of positive thinking and like redundancy in your speech, the importance of speech, which I think is really interesting because like if you say like, oh, I suck at, say, golfing, then you're probably gonna suck at golfing. It's all mental, and so much of what you say affects what you do in your life. It's insane.
No, like to relate to baseball, for example, because I used to play baseball. So it's like when you step up and you're just like in a hitting slump or something, and you just like you step up to the box and you're just like, I'm just not gonna get a hit here. Well, 9 times out of 10, you're not gonna get, like, you're just not gonna get a hit there.
Right, it's all mental.
Yeah, because if you can literally like think yourself out of stuff like that, which just makes it's really interesting. That's what I think at least.
I really enjoy like the self-help psychology / philosophy stuff.
Yeah, that's such a jam.
And I think, dude, it fucking is. And I think a very small minority of people actually like read that stuff and like that stuff, though.
Well, I think like it's like really influential, like, and like I feel like a lot of people, not the right people, read this stuff because like there's a lot of people who are like, especially now with like the rise of social media and stuff, a lot of people are like depressed, but like they don't actively seek help to better themselves and to learn like the problems within.
Right. Well, the problem we have today with our society is people look exterior for their solutions and their problems. Most of the shit you can solve by looking interior.
Yeah, for sure.
But they're putting their imputability on other people because it's easier instead of actually changing on the inside.
And like you really have to think about yourself, about like that stuff.
Yeah,
like,
dude, I've fucking started meditating. Oh
shit. Really?
Yeah, and now I'm at the point where I can go like an hour. And it's like fine.
Hour's pretty long.
But yeah, I was reading different like religious books, and it was actually like the Buddhist idea that got me into it. And I don't know, I'm trying it out and I kind of like it, dude.
Like I think Buddhism isn't more, well, Buddha himself said like he didn't want to be idolized or to like people to praise him, but to rather have them follow his footsteps to reach nirvana. But
yeah, it's more of like a
lifestyle.
Guidelines to life. Yeah.
But I think Buddhism and like the principles it teaches is like really profound and like can be impactful to living like a more peaceful life.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think regardless of what religion or you're an atheist or whatever, you should study Buddha.
Yeah, like Buddha. Yeah, for sure. Like I feel when I meditate, it definitely, I haven't gone long periods of everyday meditation, but when I do meditate, like it definitely like clears up your mind.
Yeah, it just makes you, for me, it makes me like sharper. Like I can see, like I can think clearer.
And like once you're done, you're just like, nothing's on your mind, and you're just like, you're ready to like tackle whatever needs to
exactly.
be.
And I think nowadays, shit's just so in your face all of the time. We just need to like take a fucking break.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I fucking hate like notifications on my phone.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Like I always have it on silent. Like if just like it buzzing or ringing, just like it just annoys me.
Well, it's annoying, and then if you look at Instagram or YouTube, there's an infinity of shit out there you can just waste time watching.
Yeah.
And it'll never stop, and you always, especially with TikTok, I see fuckers just sit on TikTok for like 8 hours.
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh, I need to watch just one more. And then, dude, just fucking take a break.
Oh yeah, it's definitely like addictive in nature.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's just...
Well, shit's just insane, man. I think the world's moving way too fast. People need to smoke a blunt and chill for a little bit.
Well, like, I personally, like, I want the world to move fast, but I think it's moving fast in, like, the wrong direction.
Right, I would agree with that. I think there's not enough focus on mental health and stuff like that, and I feel like there's almost, like, a fake focus on it. People are like, oh, well, we don't know why school shootings happen. It's like, well, yeah, we do. It's like the rise of nihilism in kids.
Yeah.
And, like, it's the cyclical nature of, like, depression and stuff like that.
And, like, I think people resort to depression treatment, such as, like, Prozac and, like, medicated treatment too heavily. And, like, people end up just using it for the rest of their lives when it's more of a, like, shouldn't be permanent.
Right. And I think part of that is due to people just searching elsewhere for the answers when it's all fucking inner, dude.
Yeah, and like I think that you really have to look within and see what your own problems are to be able to see what your problems in life are, rather than like, I think it's that's the most effective way to solve your problems rather than talking to someone else.
I agree.
Because someone else, they may provide other perspectives, but you know yourself best.
Well, yeah, and you could somehow put on a fake persona or something, even subconsciously, so they're not hearing the truth. And I've found this, even I've been around a lot of people that have like had depression and anxiety. No matter what you do, it's not going to help them. Like, you can try and do everything, but it's within them that changes it.
Like, at the end of the day, it's up to them to be responsible for themselves.
Yeah, and I think our whole society has a problem with just looking exterior for everything.
And like, I don't know, like, whenever I surround my people who like with depression, sometimes I feel like I don't understand why like they're angry or sad about certain things.
Well, a lot of the times they don't even know.
Well, yeah, and then like, but I just like, I want to like explain to them like, it's like you like sometimes like you can't get angry over the things that you can't control.
Right, that's a big step.
And like, people just don't understand that.
Yeah, there's some basic truths, and I started reading probably a year ago that I've just like found these gems, like shit like that, like stuff you can't control. There's no point in worrying about that. But everybody does. Everybody worries about shit they can't control.
Like, I think there's a purpose for anger and stuff for that, but I think people are generally just too angry and get too upset over little things while you can just get on with your day.
Well, they think everything matters, and honestly...
nothing.
I mean, very few things matter because we don't even know what's what. We don't know what's good, what's the truth. And to focus on every little thing doesn't make sense because the world is so big. We don't know shit.
Yeah, like, for myself personally, I just like to focus on, like, what I want in life. I feel like it may seem selfish, but I just want my, like, own earthly desires, and that's, like, I don't really, like, pay attention to religion or, like, stuff like that. I just, like, I try to focus on what I want in life.
Well, I think I just really enjoy studying different religions. I don't know why I've always found that fascinating. But, yeah, it's definitely really interesting. And I think people can definitely be, like, spiritual and philosophical without necessarily following a religion.
I think, like in Marcus Aurelius's case, he believed in the gods, but, like, he's a big example of Stoicism.
Okay, yeah, I got you.
And so, like, a lot of philosophy, like, it's mostly, like, atheistic, and a lot of philosophers were atheists, and, like, they didn't really believe in God, but, like, Marcus himself, he's a very big stoic, but he also believed in, like, well, gods.
Yeah.
But I also think, like, philosophy and religion, they kind of go in hand, but they also clash with each other.
Totally.
Sometimes.
Yeah, and you could say that with science and psychology too. Like, psychology, science, philosophy, and religion, like, are like a melting pot. And I think they're all important tools to help create the better man, the good of the populace, you know.
But I think, like, philosophy is a more individualized.
I think
religion.
I think on the whole, yes, but then I would say, like, Buddhism's pretty much all individualized.
Yeah. But then, like, when you get into organized religion, that's where you come into problems.
Yeah, like the Catholic Church and stuff like that.
Where I believe, like, for at least, like, Christianity, I believe that the Bible has great teachings and, like, definitely has, like, it can better oneself, but it also creates a more of a tribe mentality with other Christians and can lead to hate among other groups who aren't Christian.
Right. Yeah, no, I can see that. You can see that pretty much in every religion. It's like a bias and kind of... It's kind of like a patriotism to that religion almost. Yeah.
And then where, like, instead of thinking for themselves, they think as a whole.
Yeah, that's the thing is, I've read pretty much most of the Bible, and there are some great things, but I feel like you got to do your own research and stuff. I don't think you should go and get talked up by a guy that's pushing his beliefs.
Yeah.
I think it's got to be more on your own personal accord.
And then like when you get into like stuff where it's only like one person like making the shots, then you get into like mistakes and like
Yeah.
troubling stuff.
Well,
'Cause
then like crooked people.
there's no
and-
like conflict to see if that's whether like if it's a good thing or a bad thing.
That's why I think philosophy is so important, because throughout time philosophers have been against like the societal norms of the time period
Mhm.
they were in. And I think I can't really think of any right now.
But I mean, like stuff like people, like very influential people, such as oh, I can't even like Marcus Aurelius or like even the great Aristotle,
Yeah,
the great Greek philosophers. Like they're way like there were centuries before, yet they were still thinking about stuff that is really profound with like our
Yeah.
current daily lives.
Right. And I think there's some truths that we've discovered, even back like the Egyptians
Yeah.
and shit discovered these truths that can still be used today. And that's why I think it's so important to read and study these people.
Like we haven't honestly changed that much, like individually as humans.
Oh, we haven't at all. Especially when you look at it like the time frame of first the universe and the world, and then when humans started not being monkeys.
Yeah.
We're like nothing right now.
It's just like it's when you get into like you start questioning like if anything will like in society matters, because like we're still so young. Like,
Yeah.
can you really make an impact?
Well, that's the thing, is you get to the point where you realize we don't know anything. So
Yeah.
what are you supposed to do? And I can't remember who talked about this. I think it was Dostoevsky. I'm definitely butchering that name. He's a Russian philosopher. Talked about a man, once he becomes enlightened, becomes standstill. So he pretty much talks about your point. Like, you realize we don't know shit, so what are you supposed to do?
Like at that point, I personally believe like when we get into those questions where like life is meaningless or like stuff like that, like then like you create your own path. Like that's like what I like to do. Like
Yeah.
like you don't know what to do since like there's so much, but like you do what you want to do in your current time and with what you have.
I think you took the right path. I think there's two paths you can take once you arrive there. The first path is nothing matters, and then you go to like nihilism and like school shootings and crime and stuff like that. Or you can go, you create your own meaning,
Mm-hmm.
and you can hopefully do some good in the world and stuff like that. But I think it's a very dangerous place to be once you realize that.
Yeah, like I strongly believe in like giving yourself a purpose
Mhm.
and deciding what you want to do, rather than letting someone else decide.
I totally agree, dude. And I think, I mean, that's why America is still the best country. Because it's the most...
You have the freedom to discover.
Well, and free speech is so important.
Uh-huh.
Because, like, if we were in a different country, we wouldn't be able to talk about this stuff, like, right now.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't have read the books we've read and stuff, because it'd all be censored. And that's why I think it's so important. And I think, honestly, we're probably never going to know some of these answers to these questions and ideas.
And then, like, I feel like once you start censoring, like, stuff like this, then, like, society itself starts imploding on itself.
Mhm.
And, like, you start having people questioning such simple questions. And, like,
Right.
they don't understand themselves. And thus, you result in a society that's just broken and
Yeah.
fragmented.
Well, I mean, you could even argue that we're there right now.
You definitely could.
I mean, I also think the philosophers of every age have argued that their generation's the downfall of humanity.
Oh, yeah, because, like, you definitely think you idolize what you've never seen before.
Right, right. Yeah, and I think, like, right now, I think we're at the downfall of humanity. But I'm sure every other person's thought that before in their time period.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, times are definitely tough, but, like, we are at also a point where it's, like, you can say, like, the best because we have the best resources.
Right. That's like the utilitarian.
We have the internet
Mhm.
and the ability to find all these things ourselves. Like, even if you're in a censored country, you still have the ability to find freedom for yourself
Mhm.
online.
Yeah, and I think education and knowledge is so important. And I'm not talking about, like, sitting in school and learning, like, y equals mx plus b. I'm talking about, like, the shit we're talking about is super important. And I don't think the general populace does this, though.
Definitely not at all.
Because I haven't been able to converse like we're doing right now with other people on these topics.
Yeah, for sure.
And I don't know. I think it might just be the way my brain works or something, but I find philosophical and deep questions very interesting.
I think it's just like people don't really seek these questions because they don't want to, like, it's a hard thing. You have to think, like, you have to question yourself. You have to question your identity.
Right.
But like a lot of people, rather than like thinking for themselves, they let other people think,
right.
such as like Christianity, and they let
the religion gives it to them
instead of rather than them deciding for themselves. Like I see a lot of people saying like God gives them their purpose,
right,
and like they do everything based off of like kind of what other people tell them,
right,
like what the church
God's
tells them.
will or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that's powerful, and shit, who knows, maybe that stuff's true, but I also think people just need to look for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess if you don't think about it and you're happy, it's fine.
Yeah.
Because I guess that's like the term, like, ignorance is bliss. Like,
yeah, that's definitely really true as well.
Yeah.
But like once you reach a hardship in your life, then like your ignorance cannot be bliss.
Yeah, you start to question shit
and
stuff.
You don't know, like, if you didn't know this, you wouldn't know what to do, and like you might spiral down into like depression or something.
Yeah, and then you start to have those really deep questions, like, what if everything I've been taught isn't the truth, and stuff like that, or like, I don't know, man.
I don't know. Like,
I know what you're talking about, though.
I want to go back and like talk about school, because like I think a lot of people like they give they blame school for like not teaching them more applicable things, but I personally believe that like stuff such as math teaches not math itself, but the logical way of thinking.
Right.
It teaches you how to think, rather than like math, because like we're not gonna use like calculus.
No, we're not gonna use half those formulas.
But like the way of thinking, and like that's the real way that they teach. But I also think you need to think in like a logical manner, but you also need to like teach more critical thinking skills,
right.
such as like this philosophy stuff.
I totally agree, and I don't think there's enough of that. Maybe there's more in like college and stuff, because we're in high school right now. But I don't think there's enough discussion on topics like this out there.
Like, I would say like there's a big emphasis on like fiction and like Shakespeare and stuff, but like I don't see the relevance of that compared to the stuff of like philosophers of that time.
Well, the reason that that's bigger than the reality is people sometimes think what's fake is easier to believe than the truth. And that's a deep concept. They'd rather put their time and effort into what's fake because it's easier than reality.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's like, I think it's a big proponent of like video game addiction and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, and Netflix and everything, it's just distractions from the real world.
Yeah, like sometimes I don't really understand why people love like watching, like, not really, I can't say love watching movies, but especially like stuff where they like I know some people love to read fiction, but I don't understand why they would read fiction when they can read stuff like this.
I have no idea, dude. I think it's just the distraction.
But like sometimes, just because it's a distraction, you can't really say that's bad, though, because like sometimes we're just trying to chill out, you know?
Right, no, I agree, and I definitely watch movies and play video games and stuff, but I also do read a lot of philosophy and deep thinking, and I really stress the importance of meditating, dude, especially for kids and teenagers. We have the highest rate of depression and anxiety in the history of mankind, minus, I think, the bubonic plague. But you were going to die anyways then.
Yeah.
So people just need to unplug and chill.
Yeah, definitely. It's just like they need to realize, I don't know, whenever I'm just scrolling through like Instagram or something, your mind becomes so fogged up.
Right. It's like, it's almost like anxious or something.
And like, it's just, and also the sense of like the problem with social media is that everyone idolizes themselves on social media.
Right.
So you see the best, but not the worst.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing with identity is people start identifying themselves as their Instagram account when that's not even them.
And then like some people, they feel bad about themselves because like they start comparing them to other people and they think they seem so
Right.
godlike and like so perfect, but they truly aren't. And like people forget to realize that everyone has their own fears, everyone has their own insecurities.
Right.
I don't think people realize that enough.
It's all fake, dude. And that's one of the main problems I have with social media is you're comparing your best or someone else's best against your best and worst.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're just going to feel shitty about yourself. As opposed to looking inside at yourself and saying, how can I be better?
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that's much more valuable, trying to be a better person rather than trying to compare yourself to other people. That could be less happy than you, worse off than you.
And like sometimes people are just putting up a cover or like a mask over their face. Like you really never know.
No, you don't. And it's oftentimes like the movie stars and shit with the most money and the most girls or whatever that are the most tortured.
Oh yeah, and like that brings up a point. I think you hear the stories about people winning the lottery and like they lose all their money or like they ended up being bankrupt. But I think a lot of people aren't ready for a lot of money or a lot of responsibility because
Right.
they're not already in tone with themselves within.
Exactly.
And so they don't know how to like be able to control that. And I feel like that's the reason why like a lot of people like lose all their money after.
Yeah, there's no self-discipline, and they don't have the mindset of like a millionaire. They have a mindset of a poor person, which is, spend all their money on stupid shit to impress people.
And like a lot of people like are depressed with their own situation, but I feel like once they think they're depressed for the wrong reasons. And so like if you give them what they think will solve their depression, it would probably just keep going.
Right. And that's I hope I don't really have like a goal in my mind, like, and I think a lot of people have this. It's, oh, once I get this, I'll be happy in life. Like, once I get a college degree, I'll be happy in life. Then, like, oh shit, once I get a job, I'll be happy in life. Oh shit, once I get a wife, I'll be happy in life. But it just keeps going until you're laying on your deathbed. You're like, oh shit, my life's gone.
Yeah. Like, I know with, like, a family member of mine, like, they're depressed because I think, like, career-wise, they're not happy.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, financially, they're not where they want to be. But I also feel like if they were to have, like, all the money that they wanted, I don't feel like they would be happy.
Obviously not, dude. It's all relative. I mean, if you look at starving kids in Africa, they can be just as happy with $1,000 a year in the United States. That they'd be super stoked with that amount of money. And with like the financial status of a lower class American, they would think that's heaven.
Mm-hmm.
But for us, we think it's hell. So it's all relative.
Yeah. There's definitely, like, life changes. So, it's like, it's hard for the average person to adapt to that relativity.
Well, it's a hard concept, and it's almost... It's a distasteful concept.
Yeah, it's hard to perceive, like, something that you never experienced before.
Right, yes. And once you realize that it's all relative and you don't know what really matters, it's, like, not the answer you want to hear. Mm-hmm. Honestly, because you're waiting for some profound meaning, or once you get X amount of money, you'll be happy, but that's just not the case. So you got to find meaning somewhere else, and for that, you look within.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the
move.
That's the move. That's the message we're trying to put out right now. Look within. Skittles, you've been awfully quiet, man. Have you been following us or just been asleep the whole time?
No, I have zero knowledge on this topic. I'm just I'm here for comedic relief, I guess. I don't really know.
All right, sweet. Well, dude, we're at 35 minutes.
Shit, bro, I could go forever.
Dude, I know. I love talking about this stuff, man. This is the type of conversation that I really like, and it was one of the main reasons I started this, the Sloshcast, for stuff like this, and Skittles comedic relief, of course.
Yeah, exactly. My personal belief is people are too dependent on others.
Oh,
They need to become more like more of a themselves. Because like the problem is like I can relate to this because I'm kind of this way. Like I feel like I'm dependent on others to do other stuff for me, you know, instead of like just going out and doing it myself. Like for my parents to pay for every single thing that I own, except for getting a job and getting my own money. Because would you agree? I mean, it feels better when you have your own money and you buy something yourself. You feel better about that. And you want to like take care of it, if you will, more than if your parents just buy it for you. Because then you're just like, well, I mean, if it breaks, if I lose it, well, I didn't pay for it, so who gives a shit, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think it goes back to just the imputability and actually getting stuff on your own.
I think like it's the mindset of being more proactive.
Yeah.
And doing what you want to do and doing stuff to gain what you want is the important part.
And I think I totally agree. And I think a ton of people, I would even say the majority of people don't do what they want to do. They do what is expected of them. Or what society tells them they should do.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like a lot of people just end up doing what they think they want to do. Like a lot of people, especially in college, people enter college not knowing what to do. But I think you should really like find out before college.
Yeah, you should. You should do some deep thought.
Yeah, exactly.
And shit, maybe college isn't for you, and if not, and you figure that out, good for you.
And like I don't understand like why people would go through that without like putting themselves in that debt and like maybe like a major that they're not passionate in, and like I don't understand why you do that, and like why wouldn't you have like it's just like that's a large burden to put on your life.
Yeah, well, they're just following societal norms without thinking if that's the right path.
And like honestly, it probably just take like a week of just critical thinking.
Yeah, go for a fucking walk, dude, and just
Yeah.
think. It's not hard. But also, college is not financially smart for 90% of people. Unless you're going to be a doctor, a lawyer, or like an entrepreneur, or maybe like an electrical engineer or some shit. College necessarily isn't smart because you're putting yourself in, what, like $100,000 of debt for like a
around that,
like a $60K a year job.
It really depends because I feel like, and again, most people just like they go with the flow and like. But but also in like the workforce, there's not really any jobs that you can get without a college degree unless you're like an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Or
like an investor or something.
Yeah, like stuff like that. Like it's very hard to get a job, like especially in like corporate America or in the business world.
Right. Because
they want you to have a degree.
Yeah, and I think that's a big problem today. I think the main problem is we're pushing for everybody to go to college and that everybody needs a college degree. I think, honestly, we need to be pushing more for people to go into trades like welding and shit and electricians. Because that's a huge market and there's not enough people to fill. And you can be a fucking plumber and make like $100K
for
a year.
sure.
But people just don't know that's an option. They just follow the norm and go to college and get like a sales job at Dunder Mifflin. And that's just their life.
Yeah. But I think college can be really, really valuable if you make it valuable.
I totally agree.
But you have to choose the right major. Like sometimes you can't do much with like a psychology undergrad degree.
Right.
Like you
teach.
Yeah, like you'd have to go to a higher education.
Right.
And like so it's like you have to choose like the right major, but there are majors that are valuable to get a job because otherwise you wouldn't be able to get a job within a certain career or a certain field without that degree.
Yeah, and I agree. Choosing the career path and degree is very important, but I also think your mindset while you're at college is just as important. Like, you could be getting hammered and, like, getting girls pregnant, which is one route, or you could be, like, educating because you have a shit ton of things at your disposal and people and getting connections. And even if you don't get, like, say, a master's degree in business, but you get, like, a 4-year degree and you make a shit ton of connections, you can be just as well off, if not better, as someone with a fucking master's degree who just dicked around the whole time.
Oh, yeah. Like, a lot of people are saying, like, MBAs are kind of, like, useless now. Like, not...
They're so common.
like a lot of people aren't getting MBAs anymore, and so like, but I think the main purpose of a MBA is not the education, but rather the networking.
Right. And that's a big thing with business. It's just the connections.
But I also think like MBAs at like more like common schools are like probably like not as like I think MBAs are probably more useful once you're getting to like the top 10% or 5% schools, like the top schools for MBAs.
Yeah, I could see that.
Because then you're surrounding yourself with people who are like super smart, and like
Mm-hmm.
then you have a higher skill cap and more potential to create something like more impactful or something that's going to generate a profit.
Right. And I honestly think for your undergraduate degree, if you go to a public school, at least in Indiana, it's the same education, I think.
Like you can definitely make like, unless you're going to like some super small like Christian university, but like if you go to your state public school, like or like at least like a decent public school, you will be able to succeed in life if you put in the effort.
That's the thing. It's all on you.
Mm-hmm.
And you could say that about everything in life, not just about school. If you have the drive inside you and you look inward, you can do anything in America. Because it's capitalism. You can do anything and make money from it and live off of it.
Like, I personally believe that it's not hard, like, becoming, like, from maybe, like, middle class to become a millionaire.
Yeah.
But it takes a lot of work.
Yes.
And I think that is something that's very hard for everyone. Like, putting in a lot of work and effort, that is something, like, that is overlooked. It's something that's actually very hard. Even, like, hardworking people, like sometimes, like, they're not at a human's, like, whole 100%.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Like, sacrificing sleep to just, like, grind 24/7. That's, like, actually very hard to do.
Yeah.
But I think that's definitely possible.
Mm-hmm. And I also think on top of the insane work you have to put in, it's also the risk you're taking on in a capitalistic system. If you start a business and it's the sole proprietor and you fail, you're taking on that debt. But if you succeed, you get millions of dollars. So it's worth it. And that's why I think nowadays when people argue for like, oh, the millionaires don't deserve their money and we should tax them ridiculous to pay for the underclass. It's like, well, they earned it, unless it's daddy's money, you know. Because it's an insane amount of work. You have to produce a good or service no one's thought of yet, and you have to take on insane risk.
Well, the thing is, like, but, like, a lot of the risk, you do have to take on risk, but, like, through the hard work you put in, it's a calculated risk.
Right. The more work, the less risk, pretty much.
And, like, you know that your risk is going to pay off.
Yeah.
But,
it's insane.
I think once you get into stuff like billions, then that's just, I think, luck.
It's just compounding interest at that point.
Like, if you want to become a billionaire, you just got to be, like, hard work and luck.
Yeah, insane luck. And I definitely think luck and where you're born matters to a certain extent, for sure. But also in 2 generations, you can go from lower class to the top 1% in the world in America.
Oh, yeah. But I think it's just... I think once you... Like, you can become a millionaire, but relatively a millionaire is, like, nothing compared to, like, a billionaire.
Well, yeah, but then if you go the other way around, millionaire in, like, Ethiopia...
Oh, yeah.
That's a shit ton of money. That's...
completely different.
Yeah, so it goes back to the relative thing. It's all relative.
Yeah.
So we're at 45 minutes. I think we could call it Skittles. Comedic relief at all? No?
No, I got nothing.
All right, man. You want to call it?
Sure thing.
All right. Thank you, Chang, for coming on.
Yes, sir.
Good. It's been a good podcast. Been deep talks. Thank you, Skittles, for chiming in.
Some food for thought.
Yeah. See you guys.